Hola, amigas y amigos. Mark Walker here, Head of Member Services at I4CP with the latest highlights from our Talent Acquisition Weekly Series. We had a special guest from Dow Corporation, Mariana Mancini, join us. Mariana is the Global HR Center of Expertise Director for Talent Acquisition and Career Growth. She is from Brazil and came to us from the southeast corner of that country and is our first non-U.S. guest to join us. We were excited to hear not only a snapshot of Dow from an organizational structure and the changes that have happened over the last several years, but we dove into how they organize from talent acquisition, number of hires they do annually, as well as some of the things that are really impacting the current state of the pandemic, where they have open sourced their face shield design, and they have also converted 5 plants in a matter of 2 weeks to start deploying or developing hand sanitizer for people around the globe. Great things that we heard from a business standpoint. As we transition to the programs that talent acquisition was running, there were 2 things that Mariana pointed out. Number 1, focused on their early career recruiting. They were really thinking about modernization of what Mariana referred to as an old-fashioned program that went from traditional diversity conferences and career fairs to doing virtual candidate sourcing, thinking about things from a CRM and other applications to really broaden the scope of what applicants they brought to, again, their early career programs. What that also set up was some fascinating discussion about their summer internship programs and how they have really thought differently about 2020 as a springboard to ensure that they are still taking advantage of the both interest, capacity, and the pipelining that this will bring to the organization. As we continued on in this discussion, we heard a variety of questions that came back to Mariana about the HR tech that they're using, from things like Yellow as a service, as well as how are organizations minimizing the impact of video interviewing tool bias. There were several questions that dove into on internships. Are they still being paid if they're all virtual? And even a question about if we've canceled internships, are we thinking about some sort of way of engaging that pool or even paying them to make sure that they are still considering employment with that organization long term? Last thing we dove into were some current data from I4CP and our weekly pulse surveys. We're tapping into what we're concerned about is collaborative overload, especially in remote workers. If you've seen any recent studies, we're hearing an average of over 3 hours more on people's workloads based on being in a virtual environment. This data basically tells us that there are about 28% of the people pulse surveyed that said they're in overload mode. And we also had 9% of the respondents say they were underutilized. And so as we start to talk to organizations, we challenge your ability to both relieve people that are in overload, so we identify them, as well as we tap the shoulders of the underutilized to drive more productivity. We hope that you take advantage of the other resources that we're pulling together on a continual basis on the Employer Resource Center, as well as the weekly calls that we are having on HR strategy, inclusion, learning and development, and total rewards. With that, I hope that you continue to send me questions, that we have one-on-one conversations, and that you engage in these weekly calls as we are continuing these through at least June. With that, be well, and I look forward to us crossing paths.